Joe, I have your stuff up here.
I feel like I'm laying back.
Okay, I'm gonna call the working meeting to order. It's 6:05. Please, the recordings have to be behind the last person in the room or the last row if the room's filled.
I'm not holding it up, which was what they discussed last time.
No, I'm telling you what the policy is. In order to record a meeting, you have to be
Wasn't
behind.
enacted, wasn't enacted yet.
Yes, it was. We approved it at the last meeting. Okay, so those are your choices. Either turn off the recording because we're recording it, or you can move behind the last person in the room.
Okay, then I can hold it up.
If it doesn't
Okay.
bother us, if it bothers us, then I'll have you take it down.
Okay. But this has to be in the back then as well.
That is recording for the village.
But, so you changed the policy to include somebody separate?
It's not going to intimidate.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Okay, first item is the repairs at Chestnut and Walnut. I know we've been going back and forth with this. Mike and I have been out there, Harry and I have been out there, Rich and I have been out there. We think we have a way to solve the problem. We've gone in the rain, we've gone sunny days. So I'm meeting with 25 Walnut to discuss the way the water falls into his property this weekend. And I will hopefully we'll have a plan for the next week or so, and I'll send it to you guys to review. Okay, so we think if we can drop some dry wells on Oak Street and Jefferson, the water that comes down will go into there. And Mike thinks it might be the least expensive way, because we can do, instead of curb drains, we can do regular street drains.
We're still gonna do, fix the road bed and do some
Yeah.
kind of curb.
Yeah, we're just trying to have a, we figured if we did asphalt berm, right now the water is just gonna take that out again. And so we're trying to solve that problem before we fix that. Okay.
Okay, well, one thing that we had talked about is that an ordinary asphalt curb, they have a way of, don't know that that's gonna stand up to the trucks that come up, including the garbage truck, that sometimes, it's a fairly sharp bend. And they kind of clip the corner a little bit. It's just like we talked about with Washington Street. After a while, you have a trafficked area there. And unless that has a serious foundation under it, that's just going to break. So whatever we do, including the repair of the road bed, should be extra strong, thick, in order to bear the weight of a truck.
We were thinking of doing even a concrete curb,
All right.
if depending on how much pressure water is gonna be hitting them.
Okay, well, I don't know who has the training to assess just how much, what's the strength of whatever we do, but it needs to stand up to a truck. So however they decide to do it, that's gotta be a specification.
Okay.
What trucks go down there?
It's when they go up, even though it's a one-way street, because you can't turn around. Garbage trucks just go up there routinely, and that's, they're pretty heavy. And then we've had a lot of work done on various houses at Chestnut. And what these guys will do is they'll drive up this way so they can face down and get out. And especially my next door neighbor, they back up into that area so they can get out. They literally can't get out. And there's no way to turn around. So everybody with Lincoln and Nod says, it's one way to do it. So,
And there's like 3 or 4 construction
yeah.
houses going on right now, so.
Not to change the story, but there's also a big hole now down at the end of Birchwood in Washington. If you were coming up the hill and you were gonna make the right onto Birchwood, there's a big hole there that needs to get at least filled in. It's,
Will all be part of the code for them? It's a
it's big.
tunnel?
No, it's the end of the road, but it's all being cut off by, I guess, trucks and whatnot.
You got
And
another-
there is a hole there that's about 1 foot deep.
Okay. Did Joe, did the light get fixed on the corner of Walnut and Chestnut? Okay.
No,
No.
the light is there. I mentioned this to Cindy actually a couple of days ago. It doesn't go on. So
Okay.
whether somebody has to flip a switch or whatever, the installation is done, but it's not working.
Okay. That's what I heard.
The light that was totally wiped out in that fall storm.
We'll call out the walls back, see what,
Is it lighting?
see what, not the lighting company, the walls back, they installed it. It's supposed to have a sensor on the top, so that when it becomes dusk, it turns itself on. All those lights have sensors.
That survey based from last week's presentation, we got back questions from various people. We got information back on how much the dock was gonna cost, what the insurance was, what the maintenance was gonna be, how much it would cost if we floated a bond for 5 years, if we floated a bond for 10 years. And I'm just waiting for one last piece from, one of the local real estate, agents is writing a piece up on how they feel it will affect the, house values in the village.
I've had experience in constructing questionnaires. And so many questionnaires, including even people, you get these phone calls to the political surveys. They ask questions that are loaded. They're in the direction of whatever.
Push-pull.
And it's very tricky to put questions out that are neutral. And I think that's the task before us.
I
We've
think
all
it should be
seen
the facts and one question. Do you want the dock, yes or no? And then you say-
Well, I get the tenor of what they're getting at.
Mm.
And I think what we need to do is to go over each one of the suggestions. Some of them would raise some good points, but what we have to do is to raise the level of the phrasing so that it is neutral. We don't want to be accused of slanting a questionnaire that, is going to be, so how much do you want the dock, kind of a thing.
Mhm.
But we also, some of the questions were, are you aware that your taxes are going to be raised so much and so on? The tone of the question is not neutral.
Well, that's why I think it should just be the facts, and do you want it based on these facts, yes or no? No other questions, okay? All the other questions are now getting into how people feel politically rather than, some of them don't even have to do with the dock, it's ridiculous.
Right,
Okay.
well, I kind of agree with you, but I do think that since we
And let's
put it
remember,
out.
we're doing this because we're doing it as a courtesy. We don't have to do this. Both the 1962 and the 2011 master plan, the community wanted a dock. And I think we said we would do this. So why is it just, should be the facts, yes or no, do you want?
Well, I think the point that was raised in a number of meetings was that that was not quite determined to be the case because of the distribution of the surveys. So if you don't have an adequate total number of respondents, it doesn't have significance, and the amount of people that responded out of the total population was less than 50%. So the idea of this is to say, okay, we did a good, fair survey. It was neutral. It went out to everybody. We're mailing it or whatever. We're addressing the issues that it wasn't. So then we can say, whatever the result is, we can say, okay, look, no matter what anybody else says, we're either going to go ahead or it was an overwhelming no or something like that. But we have to, if we're going to go to the trouble of putting out a survey, it has to do what we intended for it to do, which means that we have to, some of those points, I don't remember, I don't have them all with, maybe I do, but there were points that probably needed to be raised, and we can decide how we want to raise it. So I don't feel we're duty-bound to take verbatim what was put into their emails and sent over to us.
Oh, no,
I think what we need to do, though, is we need to review each of the suggestions, as well as whatever other questions we already earmarked to go in the survey, and just say, is it neutral? Does it solicit information based upon, we're not giving them any other information than the facts, which would probably be
Right.
the top or however you want to.
That's what I'm thinking. It would just be basically, this is what it is, this is the size, this is what a drawing attached, what it's gonna look like. Here's what all the numbers are, here's the stuff from the real estate broker, yes or no. I don't think
Well,
it's very,
Well,
it's very
I'll give
neutral.
an example.
Mhm.
One of the, in the survey that I had seen, it said, would you be willing to pay an additional $100, I think it was, or
Right.
$50, whatever. If you're gonna be neutral, because we don't know, I don't know where you got that figure from, but we don't know whether or not that's going to remain a figure.
Right.
But, you know, so the issue would be, would you be willing to pay more for this job? Because we have to decide how we're going to finance this thing and how that's gonna play out in terms of how it's paid back. So we have to say, would you be willing to pay additionally? And then if so, we can give them some choices, but it has to go all the way from very little to the possibility that could be a significant amount. Somebody raised the issue of if it is put on the taxes, people who have a higher tax assessed rate are going to pay a disproportionate amount. But somebody else said, well, what about maintenance? Could that be paid, is that going to be paid out of user fees? And we could say, well, yes, we could say we're going to finance this part of it out of user fees, but this part, it's as a village-wide thing that is not limited to boaters. People are going to be walking this thing.
Well, I think
So we have to,
a mooring for $25 I think is very cheap. And I think personally, no matter what the maintenance is, the rate should go up. But should the boaters pay for the maintenance? I don't know, because I don't play tennis, but I gotta pay for the tennis court. Okay, so, you know, you have to look at it both ways.
I agree with it, but that decision we have to kind of kick around. I don't know that.
think we've kicked it around long enough.
Oh, we don't have a final, yeah, I would
So
like
I
to get
think
to some kind
This
of,
survey gets sent out, and then we vote on it.
Yes, but we need to also make sure that the survey gives us the information to do that. That's really what it is. And if the survey doesn't do that, then we'll go through the motions. It has to be well constructed. Anybody in any of the social sciences will tell you that.
okay, well,
So-
I say, let's come up with a draft, send it out, and everyone keep working on it until we come to a
Okay.
final conclusion of what it's gonna
Okay.
be. So we can
Okay,
get
happy.
moving.
Jeff is right in a way, like the $150, that was probably taken 150,000 divided by 1,000 residents. But taxes don't get paid by residents.
Right, but I don't
It's paid
think,
by
I don't
tax
think,
policy.
I don't think that should even be there anymore. It should just be the facts, and it should be, this is what would increase your tax rate if we decide to go that way.
Well, how do you know that? I thought we were
Because
talking
I
about
have-
various financing.
How do I know? Because I contacted a bond person who gave me all the rates for what it would increase if we did a 5-year bond for 150,000, and if we did a 10-year bond for 150,000, and he told me exactly what our tax rate would go up. So, yeah, and then he averaged it out over the years, and for 5 years, it's $1.89 per hundred, and for 10 years, it's $1.08 per hundred. So that's not,
No, that's good. But are we going to say that that's the best way and that's how we're gonna do it, or we could introduce use of fees into the equation in some way, or?
I think we have to, because I spoke to the town of Brookhaven, and I spoke to the chief harbor master in the town of Southampton. They both have docks. I asked them what their maintenance is. They both told me their biggest expense is bulkhead. We don't have bulkhead. They would be surprised if we even had $1,000 a year, they said. They have minimum costs on the dock. The biggest expense is replacing and fixing the bulkhead. Both of them told me that, two separate
Do
people.
they pull out their floats?
They pull out their floats. It's minimum. It's less than, they told me it's less than, for both the fall, the spring season and then the fall to take it out, was like $400. So it really, I put $1,000 for maintenance per year because I thought that would cover everything if there's anything we forgot, you know? But that's high. So, all right, so how about come up with it, we'll just keep working on it, and let's get a final version out at some point, okay? Is the water here? That's the water, okay. Okay, so we got the draft copy back from the village auditors, but, she might, the village trustee, she might be doing it at the next meeting, so I'll wait on that, I'm gonna hold that,
Okay.
okay? There were some changes that had to be made, so, I know you discussed it a little bit, and you sent that out to the board about turning into 25A. Do you wanna go through that again, or you're okay with last time. Just
Um,
basically what you said last time.
There's been no change as far as I'm concerned with
Okay.
that yet,
All right.
so.
I don't know if
Unless you
everyone
want-
understood. When we did it last time, it was more like, we were waiting to put an application in for Washington
Right.
until November. And then you sent us a detailed thing. I don't know if you want to say that so everyone else knows what the New York State DOT said.
Okay, well, we have a case number for a turning lane and some caution signs for Washington Street. Okay, they've had it for about 6 months now. It gets put on a priority list. And I was told that hopefully, if all things go well, and we didn't have a big hurricane, so that's not gonna affect it too much, that they'll probably be getting to it sometime in mid-November. His feeling was the signs are gonna be no problem. They'll be able to replace whatever caution signs for the turn were missing. They're gonna survey the size of the street to find out if a third lane could fit in between the 2 lanes and the 2 bicycle lanes. And if there's enough room for that, he was hopeful that they would be able to then put it on, to put the 3rd lane in. If there's not enough width, and there has to be a taking of property, he wasn't positive at all it would be going anyplace anytime soon, because there hasn't been any major issues as far as they're concerned to bring the cost, into line with what needs to be done. Van Brunt, I understand I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
They did some tree cutting.
They did. I saw them out there last week.
Okay.
So,
Right. So they were able to put a maintenance crew on Van Brunt to go to all the signs coming up the road and hopefully on the inside corner to cut some trees to make the signs and the turn more visible. I was told that not to do anything else further in that, because if we put another case number in, it might affect our present one. So let that go through. We'll find out how the new signage and the trees cutting work, and then if it's still dangerous, then we'll present a new case to them for Van Brunt Manor Road.
so I'm gonna table that till November then.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else have anything about that? Okay. We wanna talk about the increased fees for local bill 161?
Right, so I think we agreed to have a public hearing at the next meeting
Uh-huh.
for, and the proposal that I have is basically to double the parking. It basically has to do with the parking, it would be basically doubling the fee, so it'd be $100 instead of $50, if that's agreeable with the board. And again, I don't know that everybody's gonna pay a $100 fine, but at least when people come into court, it'll give if people have an excuse or reasonable excuse, or you want to, give people some credit for coming to court, it gives us some leeway rather than going from $50 down to $10 or $20, so.
How does that fit in with all the rest of the villages as far as
I think it's about the same.
About the same?
Yeah. Now, the only thing is, a lot of villages use a collection, I'm sorry, we use the same collection agency. We use a collection agency which adds penalties to that amount. So the penalties will stay, the proposal would be to keep the penalty amounts the same, but we'll be starting from a higher base,
Okay.
so.
Do you think, if we're gonna have a public hearing for that we should move the location of the meeting that night?
Yes, if possible.
Okay.
I think it's important to make the point that we did a couple of months ago, that we're losing money on the court.
Mhm.
Because, when people understand that, if somebody wants to say, oh, that's a great idea, double the fees, we need to do it, so I think it's a perfectly.
Is $100 gonna make enough?
Well, there's a couple other options I'm looking at regarding that, but so to let you know, there's probably 5 tickets. So every month on the calendar, there's probably say 6 tickets, And out of the 6 tickets, two go to judgment, because the people have never, it's been on the calendar a couple times and the people haven't appeared. Another 2 out of the 6 will be the first time on the calendar, so they'll get adjourned for 1 month before judgment. And then the other 2 or 3 will be the first time on, and sometimes the people show up. So you'll have maybe 3 people show up at a court hearing. At every court night, you'll have about 3 people show up. And we'll try to get fines on some of them, some of them we don't, some of them are dismissed by the court. 1 or 2 will get a fine, and then the other group go to judgment, basically, where they're supposed to have judgments filed against them. I've never looked into that as to whether or not the judgments are, I've never tracked that to see what's going on with the judgments, but at some point we should track that also. But the gap in the court, when we started a couple years ago, I think, as I understand, it was about $18,000, it was about an $18,000 deficit.
Yeah, we're down
And,
to 10 now.
yeah, that was at a point where, what's been told to me, that there were very few fines that were collected at the courts. We are collecting a few fines, and also money from other types of offenses, but it's not gonna make up 18,000, whatever it is, $10,000 now, or whatever it is. It's still gonna be a losing proposition for about that amount.
I
So
know
how
we're
do we
talking,
change that?
So, well, I was gonna say, we can go to number 12 at the same time, because I think we should look into the options for court, don't you?
Right, so with the court that we have fixed costs that, in order to have the court, there's, just to open the court, we have fixed costs, and, it's a variable cost because it's determined by how often we meet, how often the court meets. And, those are decisions really the judge makes, in cooperation with the village administration. But, so it's I guess basically every night we have court, it's about $1,000, $1,000 a month, basically,
Right.
just to open the court, maybe $1,200 a month. And I charge either just for 3/4 of an hour, sometimes I charge an hour, sometimes I charge a half an hour, sometimes I don't charge.
For 10 minutes.
Yeah, sometimes I don't charge, it depends on what happens. So my bill for the night is going to be between $100 and $175. And I try to keep it less, so I try to keep it less than $150. And, but then you have other people that are coming, and they're also working during the month. The clerk has things that she does during the month also.
Yeah. So I think for next month, I'm gonna start looking into other options that we could at least break even.
one of them was that we were going to consider, and it wasn't very popular at that discussion, maybe not holding it every single month.
I asked him not to do that, but he's still doing it. We cut the budget.
Is,
Oh.
I'm just wondering, in terms of the ebb and flow of open court, is that a problem? If it's not every month on the same day of the month or something?
I mean, I don't, as long as you're on a schedule, I don't think it matters how frequent it is, but that has to be worked out with the judge, Once you say, okay, we're going to have a court and you have a judge, then it's kind of up to the judge, the decision is to do something else, but,
We have some other options too, that we're just trying to explore, but I feel like let's get all the facts before we send
I
them.
mean, $18,000 is a big hit.
yeah, I mean, it's a major portion of your budget, and a lot can be done. In this village, something like $18,000, goes a long way, so, that's the story. And then the other thing about our court is we have the time that we meet, which, if you have anything substantive that's going to happen, it's a very difficult time because you don't even get around to it until almost 8 o'clock. And the size of the room here, I mean, it's just not really, the logistics of this room really isn't conducive to a court, basically. I mean, it's okay, it's almost okay for somebody to come in and plead guilty, but it's not even really good enough for that. I mean, it's a difficult situation.
If we sat down there and told him we don't want him to have court every month, why is that not being adhered to?
Because he can set the calendar dates. We can set the budget, but he can set the calendar dates.
Can't we enact something that?
He said that he feels that fairness, just looking at it from the standpoint that people need their day in court. It's not fair to just say at some point in the future that he wants to have it in a timely way, and that's what costs money. And he was doing it on principle. I mean, we're looking at the money,
Well,
whether he was doing it on principle.
From what I understand, he's also throwing out many of the tickets. So
Well,
if
we
he's,
don't know. I'm
Well,
not.
but that's
is that
his
the
right.
case?
That's his right.
It's all different types of it. You know,
Well, this is why we have such a big deficit.
I don't think we could ever make it up though. We don't have enough volume coming through.
That's what I'm, yeah, that's what the point I was trying to make. So if you're talking about 5 tickets and the question is whether
And two come.
two got dismissed or 3 got dismissed, it doesn't really, you're still at 5 tickets.
Sometimes court starts at 7 o'clock and at 7:07, the building's dark. It's done.
But the commitment that we have, and I would never disagree with the judge, but the commitment that we have to people is that if we had motor vehicle tickets, which we have hardly any really, and people were in jeopardy of losing their license or having their license suspended, then I think we owe it to people to have some way to come in and plead, take care of the ticket, whatever they have to do. But we're not in that situation. I mean, these are basically parking tickets, and the only thing that's going to happen is in a couple months, they may get a judgment against them.
October.
And
Anything else?
Code is doing a great job. This is,
No.
Code is really doing great. The paperwork's very good, and everything's. This is not a discussion all about the code enforcement. That's probably they're doing give the court a lot of support and do a great job.
Anyone else? Parking stickers, well,
I gotta commend, Frank's been doing a great job of keeping in touch with me and putting in his opinions on the stuff that we should do. And, a lot of stuff that I drafted up and talking to Frank, he's got some really good ideas.
He does.
Regarding to the parking stickers and stuff and signs. We have no visible signs at any one of our beaches or parks that state that you are required to have a permit to park here. So first and foremost, I think that should be implemented, but the stickers, talking to Frank, yeah, they can be duplicated. The placard thing, maybe not such a good idea. He had a good idea with stickers that are on the back sides of your mirror
Yeah.
that you can shine a light on that will allow you to know who's registered to park here, there, or elsewhere. Which, you know what, I would agree. I'm not a big fan of sticking stickers all over my car, exactly like that, yep. So, I like that idea. That's something we should entertain, because the placards, like you said, they could be handed out to multiple people, and it's probably not gonna work. As far as the ticketing is concerned, how many strikes do you give to a resident before you actually implement a fine? Do you say, hey, listen, all right, well, I just didn't do it, or I didn't put it on that day, give them a day, give them 2, or do you just hit another fine straightforward?
I
My
like the idea
personal-
that we do 2 years for residents, 1 year,
Okay.
or it's just so they can renew it.
Well, that's the
every
thing,
year.
the other thing too, and for me, it's not discrimination, so to speak, but I'd like to know who rents and who doesn't in the village. Different color sticker, I'm kind of for, to an extent. Just because.
Well, I think it's more, what if they're not here next year?
Right, exactly. So, those are a couple of different things that he and I discussed. But again, it all comes down to a matter of the charges per fine. Is it $100 for a parking sticker, a violation, or all across the board? Or is it higher for those who are not residents, period, and don't belong down at the parks at all? Yeah, you really can't, so it's kind of hard.
What about people that have, say, a nanny, or they have their fathers living with them?
I guess there should be an attachment, to that homeowner's, or, that particular person's registration.
How many do we allow?
Right, how many do you allow?
1 or 2, or do you allow 20, That's
Well,
where the
you gotta
problem right
kind of draw a
now.
line. Yeah, you know what I mean? I think if you got a nanny, maybe 1. I wouldn't imagine a nanny driving multiple vehicles back and forth to your house, but, and in certain cases, like, Harry, I have 3 different vehicles, 4 different vehicles registered in my house. So trying to find a way to keep it to a point where they can keep control of it, as far as code is concerned, is kind of a key thing. But, you know, Frank and I, again, we're talking about a bunch of stuff, and we'll try to iron it out and see if we can't come to a consensus on what's gonna be best suited for our community.
Okay, so do you want to tighten this up for the October meeting?
Yeah,
And
that would be
hopefully, because
fine.
I'd like them to take over January 1st.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think we should give the residents one warning, and that's
That's
it.
it.
After that, they get ticketed. And if you get a ticket, you don't have a sticker on your vehicle, you get a ticket, that's it. End of story. And outsider that isn't, you know, in here, you don't give them any warnings. Give them the ticket.
Oh, we gotta get the signs up and stuff.
Well,
That's
then,
true too, right,
We have
the
to-
signs
we
have
have to
to
allow-
approach.
so
But
the
I think between
signs
now
can
and
be,
January, we can do that.
the
What
signs can
about,
be,
what about realtors? We're showing houses. I mean, they pop in, they pop out, they're not, you know.
They don't get stickers now.
Well, I don't really know how we would want to officially handle it. There's just no policy at all. So I know a lot of times,
We should be writing another policy.
So we're looking
But
for
it-
policies just in the parks,
Yeah.
in the parking
yeah,
lot,
but,
not so much
well,
at someone's residence.
she had a couple of listings down at that, and realtors were walking there, and she would warn them
Yeah.
that, you know, you,
well, then they need to put a note in the car that they're a realtor and, you know, if that's.
well, but it's not official in terms of the guys who would be on duty. You know, kind of putting them into an awkward situation. We need to kind of officially say, here's how certain visitors to the
So
village.
we issue a temporary per day sticker and charge them a $5 fee.
They're not gonna get that past me.
But the brokers that are showing houses, I mean, every house has a driveway. This is something I've never understood. I mean, I have brokers come in court, and I just, you know, now you just mentioned parking at the beach. If you're showing, I don't understand this. If you're showing a house, you go in the driveway unless there's something I'm missing
You are.
about this.
There's a property that was down the beach, and it doesn't have stairs, and it had to be, you have to walk the beach. So you go to the end of Washington Street, park in the parking lot. walk
So
the beach.
they come to Village Hall and they get a sticker for the day and they pay $5.
Well, the code,
And that's fair.
But it's not reasonable for somebody who's working to do that every time. That's
Yeah, well, I
just-
thought.
You have to kind of balance.
but the code enforcement,
They
if
do
we
it
have
now. If somebody like the tree company, they informed us that they were coming in at a certain time. Security has a list and they know that they're gonna be there, you know, and they can handle that. You don't wanna make it a big thing. You don't wanna make it a project where they come down and
You
make
know how many realtors
applications.
there are? I mean, real estate agents? Anybody at any given time, and often it's with very little advance notice, they say, I have somebody who wants to go see such and such an address. And they hop in a car, they'll call